and deep, all right? Long and deep breaths. Let's see, how does that sound? Make sure everything is good over here with the audio settings. All right, yes. So keep on breathing deeply, long, deep breaths. These last few breaths, really, let's do a couple last few deep, long breaths. And these last few breaths, really take a moment and acknowledge your body and how your entire body is this beautiful symphony, this community inside of you. Within you, there's a community. And just recognize this community for a few moments, noticing that this community within you keeps you alive. So maybe acknowledge your cells, the organs, your bones, neurons, and how they work together. They collaborate. They speak with each other to keep you healthy and strong. A couple of deep breaths, just acknowledging what it takes to keep you alive, the incredible amount of synergy and communication and understanding. Excellent. And when you're ready, take your hands, rub your hands together, heat them up, heat your hands, heat them up, heat them up, heat them up, heat them up, and then rub it on your face. Or you can rub it on your head, or you can rub it on your heart, or you can rub it on your shoulders, or you can rub it anywhere you need. All right, awesome. Excellent. Welcome, everybody. So we get to kick off rally here with democracy. I'm super excited to have such an amazing group of people joining as a councilship. So we have this amazing councilship. We have people also tuning in on the sidelines. I'm going to get some help from Eli, who's going to be kind of navigating things on the sidelines. So when people are chatting, I encourage you guys to chat. But we have 3 rules. And before we get this rule going on, we want to share these agreements. So these 3 agreements are really simple. So for those of you guys that are on the video, we're going to go just if you agree with the agreement, just put a number 1 up, a number 1. Okay, the first agreement is we're going to start, this whole meeting is going to be done with the mindset of kindness. All right, is everybody good with that? Mindset of kindness? All right, mindset of kindness. Excellent. All right, even those of you guys listening, mindset of kindness. All right, the second one, number 2, is we're going to practice the art of listening. So let's get a number 2, or if you're down for the art of listening, practicing the art of listening, or peace, or you can do your Vulcan thing, whatever you need to do. All right. And then the third one, all right, is constructive conversation. All right. So number 3, are you guys cool with that? Constructive conversation. Everything we talk about is constructive. So whatever we try, we're not going to talk negatively about anything. We're not going negative. We're going to go down a negative wormhole. We're going to have constructive conversations. All right. Cool. Everybody's good? Number 3. All right, good. So we're good with the agreements. That was simple, super easy. All right, and it's really exciting. I'm super excited to host all of you, and let's have an amazing conversation about this topic. Before I get into the nitty gritty of the financial situation and all that fun stuff, I want to actually start to bring on the speakers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some spotlights to the speakers here. And let's actually start with Buddy, since he was here first. Buddy, will you unmute yourself and please give a quick, I'm going to invite all you guys to give about a minute to talk about yourself and why you're here and why you care. Oh, maybe I got to unmute you. Let's see. Okay, now you can unmute yourself. There you go. There you go.
I've finally succeeded in unmuting myself. So if we can close the meeting now, I'll come out with 100% success rate. I did one thing correctly. So I'm called on to speak to the budget issues around the city of El Cerrito. Is that correct? Is my understanding accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm going to do is roll out with my bias.
Wait, hold on. Before we get into the budget situation, I just want everybody to know who you are. So just tell us who you are and what you're doing in the city of El Cerrito. Like, what are you up to? What kind of things are you spinning? What webs are you spinning right now in El Cerrito?
Well, I guess the first thing I would allude to is my weekly Sunday synthesis that I put out to, and I just counted my roster. My roster, reader roster so far stands at 95. And I have a goal of getting it up to 100. So if there's 5 people in the room today that would like to be added to my reader roster for my Sunday synthesis, I'd like to welcome you aboard. And for references, well, what is this thing all about? What am I getting into? I can see right now I have Marcia Williamson, who receives it every Sunday. And I have Ishi, who receives it every Sunday. So those are my references right off the top. And then in addition to that, I'm on 5 committees, 4 of which are for the city of El Cerrito, and 1 of which is for the El Cerrito Democratic Club. And I make as much noise as I can in those meetings. And every once in a while, I get the feeling that perhaps I have influenced someone to move in a way a little more positive than where they were moving before. That's my goal, to stir the pot, to be on occasion a tiny bit provocative, and to attempt to stimulate further and deeper thought and creative thought on how we as individuals here within the city of El Cerrito and in the greater East Bay can make a positive impact and can make each of our experiences more interesting and more fulfilling than they might have been were we not here. So I think that outlines essentially most of what I'm actively involved with here in the city of El Cerrito and in the greater East Bay. Now, may I move to make a comment about the...
No, hold on to that thought. Hold your tongue. We're gonna come to that, and we're definitely gonna want your input on that when we get into that. So thank you, buddy. Hold on, let's quickly get through everybody, and I'll go by order of appearance. So I'm gonna bring on Patrick. Patrick, will you introduce yourself, please?
Okay, cool. Yeah, it wouldn't let me unmute. But yeah, my name is Patrick. I'm the Director of Development Works, Worker Ownership, Resources, and Cooperative Services. We are an organization that is dedicated to developing worker cooperatives, and we also promote other just general strategies for economic or democratizing the economy in general would be a good way to summarize that. I'm interested in El Cerrito. I found Indy via Instagram, and he saw our organization, and he wants to open up the conversation about worker co-ops, and also I tried to link him up with public banking a little bit last minute, but other economic alternatives that are going to be a lot more appealing for constituents or people or different cities, especially that are going through economic turmoil. So they're a lot more robust, and it's a good way to, restart your economy and also make it last, during economic hard times.
Nice. Thank you, Patrick. All right, we're going to come back to you, and maybe in the chat you can respond to Eli's question. But where are you right now, Patrick?
I'm in Orange County, California, so I'm not local, but I do have associates or people that we do work with in the Bay Area. So if you do want to get more serious about worker co-ops, I have people up there that I can link you up with. If you wanted to start getting some things off the ground, and they could be a little bit more, closer to home, obviously.
Sure. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Patrick. All right. I'm going to remove that spotlight, and I'm going to bring on, I think Princess was next. So I'm going to spotlight you, Princess, and you can unmute yourself, and please let us know who you are.
Hi, my name is Princess Robinson. I'm one of the project officers for Cooperation Richmond. We just opened up got an office space last year, and then the pandemic hit. But we have a successful worker-owned cooperative bike shop on McDonald Avenue in Richmond. And I'm here today just to get more information. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, I'm just here to speak more about what we do and offer our resources, and also see what everybody else is doing.
Thank you so much, Princess. Thanks. And wow, I'm really digging those eyelashes. I want to get some of those. Those are nice. Thank you. All right, we're gonna come back to you in a moment, and let's get Lisabeth. Let's see, Lisabeth. How do I make you? Oh, it doesn't let me make you the. Oh, there you are. Okay. Yeah.
Hi. Hi, my name is Lisabeth Ryder, and I let's see, for like to situate myself, I'd say that I was helped co-found the Union Co-op Council of the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives, and that we did in 2007. And then I went on to found Lucy, Los Angeles Union Cooperative Initiative, where and both of these things are really dedicated to building bridges between the organized labor and the worker cooperative community. And then I was the founder of Works and working with Patrick on developing Works, worker ownership resources and cooperative services. And we're doing a project, a couple of projects in Los Angeles, which I could elaborate on, but I don't think that this is maybe later. Yeah, this is not the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having that cap for yourself, Elizabeth. All right, so we're gonna come back to you in a moment. And let me now bring up the issue at hand. And what I'm gonna do with this is actually, I'm gonna bring Buddy on in a second too, because he has perspective on the El Cerrito financial situation. But before I get there, I'm actually specifically going to bring, I got an email actually from the city manager, and I asked her if she would speak today, but she was busy. She had a meeting, but she sent me a write-up for me to look at. So I'm going to share this with you guys. So she said, I'm going to read it to you guys live right here. However, feel free to share this message with a group if you like. So here we are. El Cerrito is a small town that has always tried to do as much as it can for our residents within our scope of services to maintain our quality of life. However, in doing so over the years since the recession, we have depleted our general fund reserves, which is equivalent to a savings account or a rainy day fund. Layering the pandemic on top of that caused even further financial and budget challenges. As you may have seen from the city council meetings, we have had to cut back on expenses as a result, and we will need to continue to be lean for at least another budget year. Unlike Richmond or Berkeley, El Cerrito is a small city with a much smaller budget and less resources capacity to provide certain services. For example, we do not provide social service or mental health, and instead rely on Contra Costa County for such services. At this time, because we have reduced staff and are restricted by the various county health orders, we have little to no capacity to take on new programs or projects. I hope that the community understands that we are trying to manage our budget within the current circumstances, which have been quite volatile and continue to change, while trying to put ourselves in a position to restore our fiscal health. All this in the midst of the pandemic we've never seen in our lifetimes, have no real playbook to follow. So we are doing the best we can. The federal relief bill will definitely help, but is not a panacea, and we have to continue to be fiscally disciplined. This will take time, effort, and patience. Staff will be discussing this further at tomorrow's city council meeting as we review the current 5-year forecast. Municipal budgets are very complex, but we have been trying our best to educate the community, and city staff will continue to work with the city council on the actions we are taking to resolve our budget challenges with an eye towards being able to restore services to pre-pandemic levels when our budget is stabilized. Woo! Okay, Buddy, I'm gonna bring you on. Can you please articulate a more live perspective to the situation?
The short answer is no, and and further, I would add that in the dialogue that I've had with El Cerrito City Council people, I've been led to conclude and believe in my conscious bones is that there are two individuals on the city council who I think you would best go to if you wanted some insight into what the basic parameters of our financial struggles are. And they are Lisa Motoyama and Tessa Rudnick. In dialogue with those two individuals, outside of the other three individuals that are on the city council, my personal subjective persuasion is that if you talk to those two individuals, you'll get insights into the realities of the budget struggle. Initially, I'm led to believe that the budget struggle started with people on the El Cerrito City Council prior to the people that are there now. And that one of the major problems that have led to the increased snowballing problems that we have now is a deal with a marijuana dispensary went south. And that because of that, we're stuck with the situation as it stands. Now, me personally, when I look at a financial issue, an economic struggle, a matter of equitable distribution of goods and resources so that everyone's happy, the first thing I look at is where are the resources now? If there's a big stack of money sitting over here in control of a few people, and there's a great number of people over here where the stacks of money are much smaller, then I would say we've got a distribution problem. That where we need to go to get our resources is wherever they happen to be, wherever we can find them. So for El Cerrito's budget problems, if you left it up to my subjective persuasion, I would find out where is the money now, and let's get it away from where it is now and spread it more evenly amongst the rest of us. That's really a sophomoric approach to current budget problems, because budget problems are not my area. As a matter of fact, when I listen to the El Cerrito City Council meetings, I sit here and I take notes, and my notes are comprehensive up until the time that some really serious budget discussion hits the table. At that point, I shut it down and go to the refrigerator and get some ice cream, take a toke, and enjoy my evening. The mechanics of the serious struggle with how you scientifically divide up stuff that's complicated. I flunked algebra in college. That's just not my area. So I think I've said what I can say about the budget, and I thank you for the time. I hope that I've found that I've said something that is of some merit to someone, and that's the best I can hope for. I yield. Thank you.
And I'm gonna actually start to bring the rest of you guys on here. And I want actually, in fact, before I even do that, I wonder if Sherry, you have any perspective you want to add? Just hopping on the microphone if you do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've been following the budget for a long time, and I made a comment in there that yeah, it's true there was a dispensary and the deal didn't happen. And what's not uncommon was that the city was counting money they thought they had.
Uh-oh, we lost you for a second. Sherry? Oh no. Looks like she got cut off there. Sherry, while you're getting that fixed up, I'm actually curious. Princess, can you share what was the budget situation? What's the budget situation like where you guys are at? I know you guys have there's something, you guys have a unique situation there in Richmond where you're at. Like, what's going on and how has the work you guys are doing helped?
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with the budget situation when it comes to the city of Richmond or the unincorporated part of Richmond where I live. I reside in the unincorporated North Richmond, and that's I think Contra Costa County oversees the unincorporated North Richmond, and I'm not really familiar with the budget of the county or the city of Richmond.
But from the perspective of like what the work you're doing, how is that affecting the community? Because I mean, I think one of the things that I'm noticing personally is the mental health cost, the loneliness, all the different things that are happening. Even in a wealthy neighborhood like El Cerrito, there's issues happening. So what are the benefits of the work that you're doing where you're at?
Yeah. So yeah, so the people that we're serving are predominantly African American, Latino community, who really have been, kind of forgotten about and left out of resources to access, resources and capital and things like that that they would need to kind of thrive in this better quality of life. But so we like to break those barriers by offering our services. So we offer technical assistance, we offer resources, coaching for residents who would like to open and develop and launch worker cooperatives, or we also incubate projects with local organizations or local development corporations that are in their neighborhood. Yeah, and then we also host like workshops and things like that for residents just to get more information on worker cooperatives and how we can build this transition to this new economy, this non-extractive economy. So yeah, we offer technical assistance, but we also offer just like access to capital, right? And that's really hard for people in my community growing up, because like some people either just don't know, like it's foreign language to them, or they're immigrants, they don't have legal statuses. And so we really break barriers for them, and we kind of coach them through that experience of opening a business, but also just even small barriers like childcare or translation and things like that. We kind of incorporate all of that into the things that we offer. And so yeah, that's how we kind of benefit our community right now.
Yeah, and that you bring up a thing, Princess. There's a couple questions, and Sherry, I'll bring you up in a second. Hold on, because a question that that Ela asked is really important. So maybe I'll throw this over to Patrick, or Elizabeth. Either one of you guys can decide. Can you explain what is this cooperative idea? What's going on with these cooperatives? Can you like summarize it as best as possible?
Liz, you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
Well, either one of us could do it. I'll say something and then you can say something. How's that? So the definition of a worker cooperative is any small business which is owned, operated, and controlled, managed by the workers themselves, not by a management team or external shareholders or owners. So if you have a bakery, you have 12 bakers, each baker owns one share, has one vote, and can never own more than one share. And that baker can only own that share as long as they work there as the bakers. So there's no way in that design for the control and ownership and whatnot of that business to ever be in anybody's else's hands. It's only the people that work there, and divided equally and run democratically. Now, why is that important? Well, so one of the reasons it's important is that if you look at the entire history of the labor movement, the objective of the labor movement was return the means of production to the worker and democratize the economy so that people equally share and equally have control in the economy. The way to move toward that sort of economy is to withdraw our labor power from corporations and start creating worker cooperatives. And so it's really the cure for capitalism and all the ails of capitalism that the organized labor, works to combat. So you can fill in some more there, Patrick. I'm sure you've got some things you want to say about it.
Yeah, it's when the workers themselves are their own board of directors. There's no employee-employer relationship. If you are a worker there, you are part of the board of directors. It's one member, one share, one vote. And, to differentiate that between a traditional firm, it's one share, one vote. And, there could be several owners, but there could be one owner that has 51% or more of the shares, and he has what's called a controlling interest. And, if you're talking about corporate America, for instance, let's just say Disney, because everyone's familiar with one of their products or what they do. You know, there could be millions of people that own shares, and they do. But normally what happens is there's about 5 to 20 people that have what are called bulk shareholders, and they're the ones that usually have the controlling interest combined that decide on who the board of directors are and things like that. And you might get like a little Robin Hood notification saying you can vote, you know, you can vote every year on their annual meeting for who the board of directors are, but you only have a few shares. It's probably not going to really amount to much, your voting power. So in a worker co-op, it's one member, one vote, and there's not an outside. There's also not another class of people that make decisions and another class of people that, you know, produce the value for the firm, which benefits the firm.
And what I wanted to ask was, I think Patrick, you and I were talking about this. Does the Buddy or maybe anybody else from the city, Sherry or Marsha, are you guys familiar with any cooperatives in El Cerrito? Are you familiar about any of them?
I didn't know that there were any in El Cerrito.
So apparently, does anybody else want to go? Marsha?
Well, I would check with No Boss, which is the network of Bay Area worker cooperatives, and they might know if any of them are physically located in El Cerrito.
Well,
because they have a very large.
There actually is. Marsha, do you know about it? No?
I wasn't going to say that I knew of any cooperatives that ever existed in the city of El Cerrito.
There's a co-op.
In the city of Berkeley, there was a very successful grocery store called the Co-op that originally started out as a worker cooperative. And in the end, I don't know what it evolved into over many years, but so, I mean, there are local examples of cooperatives, and I thought of another one, but I can't remember right now.
It turns out I was talking with Patrick earlier, and we found that there's one that's existed since 1940 in El Cerrito it's the Preschool. The Preschool is a cooperative, and Patrick, maybe you can elucidate what you saw from that.
Yeah, it's a consumer co-op, but it's really small. So it's the parents are the ones that own this cooperative. So it's one member, one vote. The parents own it, and they hire teachers. So it's it's not a worker co-op, but the fact that there's a cooperative in your city that's been around for 80 years was kind of blew my mind a bit, because I've never even heard of it, to be honest. And I look for these things a lot. I spend time investing on, where the co-ops are all around California and also just the United States. And so that's a little different than a worker co-op, but it is not exactly a traditional firm. A consumer co-op, to be a little bit more, concrete with it. If you're familiar with REI, for instance, REI is a consumer co-op where it's, you purchase a member share and you decide on who the board of directors are. And a credit union is not exactly a consumer co-op, but I call it a depositor co-op, but it's pretty much like if you own a bank account in a credit union, you are now a voting member. So it's similar where the customers are the people that make decisions on who the board of directors are and are the owners collectively. So, yeah.
So let me kind of drive this conversation in this way too, because now we understand there is a financial situation here. I know, Buddy, I'm not sure, I missed it today, but I know you did a senior stroll to the BART station. Can you quickly articulate what's going on with BART and what is the actual situation we have where we have property, we have stuff that's actually there that's empty, and maybe there's potential for turning into a housing cooperative work. I mean, Buddy, what's going on with BART? Because I don't get it either.
Well, there's a big sign right outside the back wall of BART that gives you a sketch of who they are, what they're about. Trisha Clark took a picture of that. I don't have access to it now. I haven't gotten it from her yet. What I think we saw today was not terribly revealing. They've been reorganizing, restructuring the BART station for at least the last 2 years, maybe 3. And there's a giant high density residential unit going up as we speak. They've been working on that for 6 months. I'm led to believe that the That structure is being constructed from a fabrication facility in Vallejo that puts the stuff together like a jigsaw puzzle and then sends it to El Cerrito on flatbed trucks, and the workers there put it together, tack it together piece by piece. I'm also led to believe by Tessa Ruddick that the back end of that structure is going to be of an artistic nature that we'll all be pleased with. When I looked around, what occurred to me is Bart owns all of this land, so Bart will do with it what Bart is motivated to do with it. And then I looked at all the hard hats that were there, and I thought to myself, each one of there were dozens and dozens of hard hats all over the place doing all sorts of things. And what came up for me is each one of those hard hats is getting a handsome salary, is getting medical coverage, is getting overtime, is getting sick leave, is getting vacations, and so on. I mean, just each one of those workers represents a huge investment. And Bart is involved in an enormous investment there. And in the face of the current pandemic, I think that it's going to be a challenge for any of us to predict the future. But I think Bart is rolling the dice with their future and assuming that that high density structure will fill up with people that theoretically they thought were going to jump on Bart every morning and run back and forth to San Francisco. Well, all of that has changed radically as we speak and as we can see. And how to predict it? Well, it's all going to turn around. It's going to get normal again. Is it? I'm not so sure. Again, if I may get back to the issue of financial resources, the city budget and so on, if I wanted to restructure the budget in a way that I thought made more sense, I would go to where the money is. Alluded to that. So I would go to the largest salaries, namely the city manager, the city chief of police, the chief of the fire department. I would go to those salaries and reduce them substantially and get those resources out amongst more of the people that can do more of the things. Now, as I was speaking, I noticed that Patrick was shaking his head, and I'm wondering if maybe I've motivated Patrick to share anything with us. Patrick, can you take it?
Sure. The IRS said that a lot of the jobs that were lost during the pandemic are not coming back. So it's I think it's going to be really interesting. And another thing too that needs to be talked about is the stock market is in probably one of the biggest bubbles in the stock market history. And most economists will agree that, if a bubble exists, it will eventually pop. And that will also cause, if we are going to recover economically as a nation, for instance, I don't think it's going to be, hey, once COVID's gone, everything's going to go back to, everything's going to go back to normal. But yeah, I just want to, it's probably not coming back. Not the way that we think it is.
Lisabeth, really quickly, with that being said, what is your knowledge on are cooperatives are they pretty good? Are they salves? Are they supportive during emergency situations, or do they fall apart? What's the benefit?
Well, research has proven that cooperatives are much more resilient, and they last longer than traditional business enterprises. So, in Mondragon, Spain, which is one of the the flagship cooperative network of cooperatives in the Basque region of Spain, during the 2008 crisis, the unemployment rate was 28% in the rest of Spain, and in Mondragon it remained stable at almost nil, like 4%, 4 to 6%, something like that. And the reason is that and this is the important thing about worker cooperatives, as distinguished from other types of cooperatives even, and all types of other business enterprises, is it puts the worker is the primary focus of, we work to create benefit for the worker. You know, we may make a little sum of money extra if we're really good at what we do, but that's not the absolute primary goal. It's good to have, you know, a little extra money, but the saving the job in that particular instance, when the 2008 crash was the primary goal. So they made a collective decision, which you would never, ever, ever make in the situation in the United States. They actually voted for a very brief period of time, to reduce their salaries themselves so that everybody could keep their job. And this is what people do when you put people first. So in the United States, of course, in the labor movement, you would never, ever, ever agree to that, because you know that the bosses would never give it back. But because they were the owners and controlled the business, because it was a worker cooperative, they knew that they were the ones making the decision. So they could, you know, for all the benefit of everyone in the system, reduce their salary and then bring it back 2 years later to its full scale. And they knew that would happen. They had confidence in it because they were the ones making those decisions. And that's the type of economy that we want. We want an economy that puts people first before profits. And the only design that does that is the worker cooperative, 100% workplace democracy, and one worker, one vote, one share.
Yeah, and thank you. Oh my God, Elizabeth, make sure you catch your breath. And I want to actually bring, because like, you know, one of the things I've been super researching cooperatives for the past few weeks, preparing for this, and one of the things I noticed that was a clear distinction was that cooperatives seem to be horizontal, whereas like a lot of our structures are vertical, right? And the vertical thing is like,
Yeah.
if the people at the top are unhealthy or are not good decision makers or just failing at their decision, everybody is impacted. But in a horizontal structure, it's like, okay, now everybody's kind of involved and affected by the decisions, right? But really quickly, I want to bring Princess on. Princess, what are the cooperatives right now that are like working? Like what are you seeing that's working in Richmond? Which is a pretty, like, in my opinion, it's not super wealthy, right? And like, what's working, and also how is it impacting the mental health? Because I'm really involved with the mental health of teenagers, kids, parents. I do a lot of wellness stuff. I'm noticing there is like severe loneliness and severe issues of people just getting more and more disconnected from community and society, more loneliness. What are you noticing with the co-ops? What co-ops are running right now? What are some examples that are in our neighborhood?
Yeah, so in Richmond, there's a bike shop called Rich City Rides. It's Black owned, and it is a worker owned cooperative. And everything is ran cooperatively, and they all take this kind of democratically governed approach to all decision making within the business, but collectively making decisions. They also engage really heavily in their community, right? So one thing that we did notice about during the pandemic was that our bike shop really increased in sales a lot, because a lot of people were getting outside in nature. East Bay Regional Parks was kind of filled up. It was just one of those, people were really just kind of wanting to be outdoors, but also be in some sort of like togetherness, right? Like, how can we collectively make decisions, and how can we collectively engage with each other? So Rich City Rides kind of kept doing their like bike rides. They also kept increased in sales, which allowed them to get more, more of a line of credit to kind of really establish themselves and bring on more worker owners in the process within the bike shop. So yeah, I felt like that we were providing just this, like helping people with like, yeah, because me, myself personally, I was getting kind of lonely just working on my computer all day. But engaging outdoors, like I really started to take advantage of the actual trails that are like right down the street from my house. I really started to take advantage of that. So
what about like job security? Like, do you feel like, especially because like these days too, it's even tougher for people who are, marginalized, Black, brown communities. Like, do you see this is more like, is it more, do you find more resilience because of the co-op model?
Of course, yeah. I think this is like it's not a new wave, right? It's kind of historical, of a way of how people used to run businesses and how people used to trade amongst themselves. It's a historical value to our economy, but it's just like bringing this back, bringing this this cooperative model back and make and providing just this information to people. And once you kind of say it to people, they're like, oh yeah, why didn't we been thinking about, like, why didn't we been thinking about something like that? Because it's better to, if you're working for yourself and you're the owner, you're putting more work into what you're doing, and you're really taking pride in what you're doing, and your time is being valued, and it's not, extracting from you, like how you have to go to work every day and then, so yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Princess. Patrick, can you address Eli's question? He said, what are some stories of cooperatives failing, and what happens when they fail?
Well, first thing I want to bring up is, what percentage of traditional businesses fail within their first 2 to 3 years? Who knows the number?
Yeah, 70%.
No, that's low though. It's like 80 to 90. Yeah. So if you're sure, 70%, hey, whatever, like it's still the same difference, like that's the first thing I like to bring up when I hear something like that. Why do some co-ops fail? Well, they fail for different reasons.
I don't want to know why they fail at all. I wanted to know what happened. Like I'm really just curious about the ownership idea and how you like dissolve these sort of things and how it's done peacefully, and like how they move on, and how, like, if we're going to make that sort of, especially public investment in a cooperative idea, it can fail. And I want to know how.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, the number one reason why businesses in general fail, not just co-ops, but just is undercapitalization. Right. Meaning don't have enough money to, either expand their operation to deal with like new situations, or, a lot of times what happens, they can't make enough money in the beginning to make rent, or, other expenses, they, because they're trying to get the ball rolling, but it's not rolling fast enough for them. So, I mean, undercapitalization is the number one reason why any business fails in the beginning. So that's, one thing. One thing, actually, a benefit of a cooperative, because it's just like it's a partnership, mass partnership, I guess you could say, as you, would be kind of an easy way to describe it. Partnerships fail too. But what's really interesting about a co-op is, let's say one partner wants to get out of like a handful of people. The co-op doesn't die. You just buy them out, and it continues to live. Other ways they fail, I guess you could say, or they they demutualize, meaning all the owners at once want to get out and they're just out of the business. So they sell it to somebody, and that person just turns it right back into a business. And, he reorganizes production, I guess, or reorganizes the environment back to a traditional business. So that's another way they don't fail, but they fail to be a co-op, I guess. So
yeah, and with that being said, Lisabeth, do you have something to say, please?
Well, yeah, I was just going to bring up the importance of building a whole ecosystem of worker cooperatives, and not just focusing on creating one worker cooperative. Is illustrated by the Mondragon case. Because what they managed to do was, when they had one of their largest worker cooperatives, Fagor, which was manufacturing household appliances, failed. But they took the workers from there, retrained them, and placed them with other worker cooperatives in their network. They have 80,000 worker owners and 250 worker cooperatives in a network of worker cooperatives. So that's what the objective is to create a whole ecosystem, a whole economy, where they reinforce each other. They have worker cooperatives that are, supermarkets. They have worker cooperatives that are universities. They have worker cooperatives that are social services. They have, every type of worker cooperative you can think of, and they reinforce each other, and they pool their financial resources in a credit union in order to create yet more worker cooperatives to help employ more people, in their local ecosystem. Then so that they manage to redistribute people, but they also manage to redistribute wealth. So if you buy your groceries at a worker cooperative grocery store, and you send your child to a worker cooperative, childcare, and now the money is staying just locally. None of it's being sucked out by shareholders and the stock market and capitalists from big box stores or whatever. So the important aspect of it is to create an ecosystem, to create in your area, not just one worker cooperative.
Yeah, that's a really important point. Yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to actually build on top of that. You have to create an ecosystem because cooperatives do behave differently than traditional businesses. For instance, like Fagor, which is the appliance factory that was the original one that Erasmin Dirieta, the famous priest, the boss priest that started it. There was a few reasons why they, that particular cooperative failed. For instance, they were too reliant on exports opposed to domestic consumption of their products. So when the 2008 financial crisis happened, it killed a lot of their markets. But also they had a few internal issues that they weren't able to work out. But what happened was when it folded, they had an insurance company in their cooperative system that guaranteed all the wages of all the worker owners. And then they repurposed them and put them back. They sucked them back into these cooperatives. And I also want to bring up what Mondragon is. Because a lot of people may not be familiar. It does about $25 billion a year in business. It's a worker cooperative in northern Spain. And if you're familiar, sorry, what?
The Mondragon?
Like MON Dragon, Mondragon.
Yeah, Patrick,
or Mondragon.
Patrick, can you share that in the chat?
Continue.
Yeah, someone put it down. So it's the Mondragon Cooperative Corporation. It does $25-ish billion a year. It's about 250 different cooperatives, like Liz was saying, and it's a federation. So a federation is they have like a mother company, and each co-op is a member of this mother company. It's one co-op, one vote for the mother company, and that's where the university is connected to it. They have a research and development that IBM and Microsoft, pay for them to get, so they can get access to their, their R&D. They farm chickens and they do high tech manufacturing. They do a lot of different stuff. But the important thing to know is that it's an ecosystem, but it's all working as one thing. It's all working together as one. And, the Arizmendi Bakery, for instance, has a small little Mondragon model in the Bay Area where they have 5 bakeries, the cheese board. I think they have a small construction company, and I think there might be some kind of landscaping. They might have a few other cooperatives in their ecosystem.
But they're doing well right now. Like they actually are. The chefs are like getting paid way higher than any chefs across the country.
Yeah, another thing I want to address too is income. A big problem in the United States is income inequality or even wealth inequality. We have wealth inequality that is the only thing I can really compare it to is like pre-revolutionary France, in the sense of like how consolidated capital is in the United States. And for every dollar that a worker makes, the CEO of that company makes $320 per every dollar a worker makes on average. Now, if you go to Walmart or McDonald's or something, it can get as high as like $1,100. And I've heard stories, I haven't confirmed this yet, but I've heard stories that it can even go northward of that, for pay packages, which include salaries, stock options and, health benefits, just name a pay package, just a standard corporate pay package. While the worker, doesn't really share in a lot of the benefits that, let's say the upper management does. So in a worker co-op, on average in the United States, it's about $1, $1 the worker makes to like maybe like a hired or elected manager gets $2. But in the Mondragon, which is a scaled up cooperative that does billions a year, it's like 1 to 6 or 1 to 8 is the pay ratio between the average worker and also to the CEO or the person that they elect at the top of Mondragon, or they collectively hire through the federation.
But buddy, go ahead.
I hope that you guys aren't hearing this, but I'm finding myself purring loudly at what I'm hearing. And my initial impulse is to say, can we establish Lisabeth as the economic czar of the East Bay? And I suspect, without checking with her, I suspect Sherry Drobner's right in here with me on this one. I love it. Let's do it. Let's set it up right. Let's start right here in El Cerrito. Lisabeth, can you move to El Cerrito?
I used to live in Oakland, by the way, but I think you need to talk to Tim Hewitt. He's there in the Bay Area, and he's the czar of the Arizmendi group. He's been doing it for 30 years, highly successful, and he's right there next to you. Okay, but I know he's an old friend because I used to live in the Bay Area.
Well, I was born and raised in Oakland, California. I'm an East Bay boy. I spent 10 years in the University of Oregon in Eugene. Other than that, I've been right here in the Bay Area my entire life. I've traveled a bit, gone around Europe and Asia and so forth. So I think I have somewhat of a global perspective. But ultimately, my personal perspective, my personal persuasion on how you should set up economies, both local and global and local and municipal and community-wide, follows very closely from everything that Lisabeth and Patrick have been saying. Right on, let's go with it.
So I got a good, Marsha asked a question that I'm going to pivot our conversation to this since we only have 8 more minutes. I want to respect everybody's time. So we all have a good dinner. But the idea is where do we begin? Right. And we know there's a preschool here. Right. But like, we have this property from Bart, but we also, let me ask a question. Can a cooperative exist without a physical structure as well? Like, is that possible?
Yeah, many do.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the type of business, right?
Right. So that being said,
Yeah.
what are some, so Buddy, maybe we can get some ideas from Marsha and from some of the people who live here, El Cerrito, but maybe you guys have ideas, in this space right now with what's going on with the pandemic. What are some of the things we could do in El Cerrito? I'm going to throw an idea right away. This is a thought experiment. So there's no wrong, but for me personally, I'm an educator. I get hired by private companies and I get paid nothing to teach stuff that should be worth thousands of dollars, right? And the way I engage my students, especially during this pandemic, using all these cool gadgets I use with tech stuff, I keep them engaged, but I don't get paid anything. I would love to create an educator co-op that tackles the mental health issues that kids are dealing with and teaches them about financial health, teaches them about how to be good human beings while they learn their academics. That's my interest, to develop a education co-op. But what are some possible
There is an organization. There is an organization called teacherpoweredschools.org, which has 120 worker cooperative K-12 schools, half of which are actually union represented on top of that. So it's a great organization. You should get connected with them. And Tim Hewitt is very interested in the same topic.
Yeah, Princess, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say similar to what Lisabeth and Patrick were speaking about. Cooperation Richmond is a part of this. We're a peer loan fund member of a national financial network called the C Commons. And yeah, we're telling everybody, like, if you want to start a business, if you want to launch a business, come to Cooperation Richmond. We have access to capital. We have a non-extractive financing. There's also other peer loan members out there as well in your other cities as well. So take advantage of those, look those up. But I was gonna suggest that one thing that El Cerrito can do is talk to existing businesses that are already there and try to get them to convert into a cooperative. Actual corporations or things that are already out there. Talk to those business owners, let them know how good they'll be doing the economy by converting their business into a cooperative.
Yes, Liz. Yes, Elizabeth.
And since you have connections with the city, you should put a resolution before the city council. You should put there's an ordinance, a sample ordinance that the SELC, the Sustainable Economies Law Center in the Bay Area, has a sample ordinance that you can use to propose to your city council. And you should then also offer to these businesses, as Princess was saying, you want to get local businesses that are going to transition in ownership because, baby boomers are retiring, or they just want to move on, or the pandemic has, just given them a kick in the pants. You want to get the city to give them incentives to, forgiveness of something or whatever it is, to convert to worker cooperatives, to keep things local. So that they aren't bought out by large corporations, and they will be receptive to that argument, because a local business pays into the local tax pool, whereas other big box stores and whatnot do not.
Absolutely. We had a question really quickly from Sherry, which was about housing. But Buddy, really quickly, Buddy, before I address you. Is housing also an aspect? Can we also convert like certain housing into co-ops, like like the BART housing that they're building? Is that a possibility? Yeah.
Can Sherry speak to that?
Can I ask a question about
It's
the
not
housing?
housing though.
Sure, Sherry, please.
Sure. So I've done a lot of work talking to tenants in the past few years, and what I see, the gentrification, and I see a lot like there's apartment buildings, that are getting taken over, and the idea of like how, maybe this is more of an issue of a land trust, but there seems to be like a way that you should be able to get tenants to be able to collectively buy in and create cooperative housing instead of what's happening now, which is long-time people, getting pushed out.
Well, isn't
There's a big
isn't that
move in
what?
Los Angeles. Sorry.
Go,
There's a big
go-
movement in Los Angeles called Downtown Crenshaw, and you should look at their strategies that they've been using. I mean, I didn't get the website in there properly, but downtowncrenshaw.com, and they're buying up, and not just residential property. You also need to look at commercial properties, because every worker cooperative should have in their business plan to own the facility, the property where their business is. Otherwise, landlords will be the ones that put them out of business. One of the biggest reasons they go out of business. So Downtown Crenshaw is working on both levels in Los Angeles to purchase a 40-acre facility and other residential properties around that facility to stabilize gentrification, but also to stabilize locally owned businesses.
But Buddy, go ahead.
I'd like to ask Marcia to speak.
Please. Marcia. Oh wait, you're muted, Marcia. You're muted.
Unmute, Marcia.
I was thinking that we already have cooperative living situations in terms of people who live in condominiums and townhouses. I mean, each individual owns their property, but they belong to an association and they pay money to that association for the upkeep of the property. Is that the model that you're talking about that already exists, or how does it differ?
Well, I can answer a little bit of that, because a similar thing happens. It's not one person, one vote. It's your vote, your level of control is determined by a cash value rather than one person, one vote. So this happens, with not only things like condominiums or other types of where you own collectively, but also there's different types of what they call employee ownership, like an ESOP, where your voting share is determined by your salary. I'm sorry, I've got a 3-year-old granddaughter here that's not happy, so I'm going to have to go. But it was great talking to you guys. It's not the same, and you should be very critical of any kind of employee ownership that's not a worker cooperative and has 100% workplace democracy. And you should also be very cautious of other types of cooperative entities that are not based on the one worker, one vote, one share model. Because if you look at agricultural cooperatives, the workers are just as oppressed and have just as many problems with labor, the farm workers themselves, because it's the owners that belong to and control the agricultural cooperative. So yeah, be careful of your definitions. I've got to go. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thanks for your time. Patrick, Patrick or Princess, can you guys illuminate really quickly on what the difference is of actually wealth building? And maybe actually, Patrick, let me give it to Princess, because you said wealth building, and I think that's important. Really quick, can you share that?
Yeah, I said wealth building because there are multiple ways that you can gain financial freedom through collectively coming together and building that wealth with each other, whether it be every month we all come together as a group and we put in $5 with each other to create this pot of money for us, this sort of investment. So there are a lot of strategies that people use, but wealth building with each other, because you already wealth build with your family, you already wealth build with the people that are around you. So when anything happens in your family, you're kind of okay, let me be supportive and give what I can already. So wealth building with each other in your community, the people on your block, the people, you know what I'm saying? Easiest way to make change, fastest way to make change.
And to flip it, and Patrick, maybe you can add something on that about the housing, because I feel housing is a big one, especially here in El Cerrito, where wealthier people are getting more richer and everybody else is struggling. and we have housing that's available, that's opening up here. So maybe we could be proactive about it.
Yeah, I wanted to tell her what's the difference between like a condo and a housing co-op. It has to do with the condo, you own the building of that condo, but in a housing co-op, an entity owns all the units that you are a member of. And the tenants are they are the board of directors, and they're the ones, one member, one share. Does that make sense? So in a condo, you own that individual building, but in a housing co-op, you are an owner of the entity that owns all the buildings collectively. That makes
How does that
any
make
sense?
a difference? It kind of makes a difference, but it sounds like tax stuff. I mean, how does that trickle down to, or give them more power or wealth?
Well, I can tell you, as far as like taxes go, there's what's called like, I think it's called the 20% threshold, where if you have patronage dividends, for instance, and a patronage dividend is like a dividend if you own a stock in a company, and they give you part of the profit, distribute it. Same thing with the worker co-op, but it goes to the workers. If you have it's like the 20% threshold. If you have somewhere around like 20% of your income comes from patronage dividends, you are it's called like subchapter T, and you get tax benefits that other companies don't have, through federal taxes.
Okay.
And if that.
Excellent. And listen, you guys, I super appreciate all of your guys' time. It was awesome. Elizabeth got stuck with the boo-boo. Thank you so much, Princess. This is just the beginning, you guys. This is a kickoff rally. Our intention is that we're going to present something to the city hall. We'll get some council members next time. Maybe we can get some city managers or assistant city managers into this conversation, because they're the decision makers of the city. And if they had more understanding of what's going on, we have money coming to us. Like literally, we're getting a relief package. If we put that money into something that's going to support the community, it'll support everybody at a local level. So let's continue this conversation. Thank you, Princess. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Elizabeth. Buddy, do you want to leave us with any thoughts before we bounce out? I know I was holding you back there. Any thoughts?
I'm going to quickly run to the Albany City Council and motivate them to cooperate with us. I thank you. Let's see, what was your name again? Oh yeah, Rishi. I thank you. This was an uplifting and an inspiring presentation. Let's do more of the same, and you can count on me as a resource at each and every opportunity. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Marcia. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Catch you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Be healthy. Be
Pleasure.
well. Play it out. Play out the flute. Here we go. Yes.